The husband I was blind enough to marry for 10 years was actually colluding with his manipulative friend to screw me over. He swapped my biological son, letting that child be abused to death, and even put sterilization drug in my food. I endured it until the wedding day, then played a video for all the guests, showing him pulling the oxygen tube on his own son. Those beasts knelt on the ground begging for my forgiveness. Where was that before? Now I just want to see them gnawing on each other in prison. Robert Miller's manipulative friend brought her illegitimate son over to visit. When the child called him dad, my son hit him. Robert Miller knelt and apologized to me, saying that child was just the product of a drunk mistake. He swore he wouldn't let his son's status be threatened and promised to send the illegitimate son away so I wouldn't be bothered anymore. 10 years of marriage, I forgave him, but my willful son poured gasoline on the illegitimate son. Wanting to play the game from the movies where people set things on fire, the other child was burned and taken to the intensive care unit. I severely punished my son and went to the hospital with gifts to visit, only to run into Robert Miller and his manipulative friend fooling around in the hospital room. Robert, was it you who gave Ethan the gasoline and lighter, and coaxed him into burning that little brat? He shouldn't have been born. I'll pull his oxygen tube right now. What if Eleanor finds out you swapped our children back then, and this one who died is actually hers? Since I promised you our son would be the sole heir, I have to make sure you're completely at ease. It turned out his apology was nothing but a facade, a deceitful lie. My child and I were the mistakes that shouldn't have existed. I was really afraid you'd make our Ethan an illegitimate son for the sake of her and that little brat. That would have been a raw deal for me, as your friend. Luckily, you swapped the children early on. Robert Miller held Sarah Taylor on his lap, saying with a mix of indulgence and helplessness, "From childhood till now, when have I ever let you suffer a loss? Besides, Ellie's family background is too low class, and she was an aid worker for several years. The relationships there are chaotic. I can overlook her being dirty, but I absolutely cannot let her give birth to my heir and contaminate the Miller family's bloodline." I listened to his words in disbelief. When I was first with him, I was still a virgin at that time. He said I was the purest girl he had ever met, but now he thinks I'm dirty? Sarah Taylor was still uneasy. But what if Eleanor gets pregnant again in the future? Don't worry, for the past few years, I've been putting sterilization drug in her food. She can't get pregnant anymore, since I'll let Ellie be Mrs. Miller for life and enjoy the life of a socialite. She doesn't need to have a burden anyway. Sarah, we grew up together, and you've given me a son. I'll never let you have any worries. Come, let your friend see if you've had a second growth spurt lately. His hand reached into Sarah Taylor's hem of her dress or skirt, and they embraced and intertwined passionately. When I first found out the illegitimate son was the same age as Ethan, my heart ached that my husband had cheated on me with his manipulative friend just when I became pregnant. The scene of Robert Miller kneeling before me and apologizing was still vivid. 10 years of marriage, or maybe it was because the child named Daniel was too thin and meek, covered in bruises, not making a sound even after Sarah Taylor slapped him a dozen times. I didn't know why. But not only did I not feel satisfied, I felt a faint ache in my heart. It turned out that was my biological son. Robert Miller had swapped my child with Sarah Taylor's a long time ago, letting my son become an illegitimate son after their child burned him. He even personally killed him. And all of this was to appease his childhood sweethearts. I took a deep breath and abruptly pushed open the hospital room door. Robert Miller stood up in a panic. "Ellie, why are you here? It's so cold. What if you catch a cold?" I'd be so worried. Don't misunderstand. Sarah's back was itchy just now. She couldn't reach it herself. I was just helping her scratch. I absolutely won't make that mistake from last time again. Sarah Taylor walked towards me brazenly, put her arm around his neck, and smiled at me. "That's right. Robert and I are like brothers. We never keep things separate. We only slept together because we were drunk before. Otherwise, if we had wanted to be together, there would have been no place for you long ago." Robert Miller lightly scolded her. "Don't talk to Ellie like that." But he made no move to take the hand off his neck. I turned to look at the hospital bed. The oxygen tube lay limply on the floor. The heart monitor flatlined long ago. The child's small body was cold and stiff. My chest ached, making it hard to breathe. This was my child. He had been abused by another woman for so many years. I hadn't even had a chance to care for him for a day, and his father had personally suffocated him. "Ellie, why are you crying? Is the brat's appearance too ugly? Did it scare you?" "Don't worry. I'll have someone send this brat to the crematorium later. His ashes can be scattered anywhere." He was something that shouldn't have been born anyway. He doesn't even deserve to be buried in the Miller family cemetery. My hands clenched tightly, letting my fingernails dig into my palms. He killed my child, separating us forever by death, and it still wasn't enough. He wouldn't even let the child be buried in the Miller family cemetery. 10 years of marriage. What did I even count for? I looked at him calmly. Robert Miller. Let's get a divorce. He froze for a moment, then frowned. I told you, nothing happened between Sarah and me just now. Do you have to dwell on the past? What man hasn't made a mistake? I only did it once. That brat deserves to die, but do you know Ethan almost hurt himself playing with fire? I haven't even asked you how you were looking after him, and you have the nerve to bring up divorce? Seeing that I didn't speak, his anger grew even stronger. Eleanor, it seems I've spoiled you too much lately, let me tell you. I won't agree to a divorce. Besides, without me, you're nothing. Robert Miller left in anger, and Sarah Taylor quickly followed, not forgetting to shoot me a scornful look over her shoulder. But he forgot that when it came to divorce, I didn't need his consent. I dialed a number on my phone. You just lost your wife. I'm about to be divorced. How about we team up? When Robert Miller proposed, to show his sincerity, he had prepared a divorce agreement in advance and signed it. Ellie, if I ever treat you badly in the future, you can leave me anytime, but I swear that day will never come. I will make you happy for a lifetime. The vow seemed to still echo in my ears, but the man whose eyes were once full of me had long since changed his heart, wiping away my tears. I handled Daniel's funeral arrangements alone. By the time I finished burying the child, it was already noon the next day. As I walked into the mansion, I saw Robert Miller peeling lychees one by one for Sarah Taylor. Robert, your peeled lychees are the sweetest. Tell me, how many women have you done this for? It's because you're clumsy like a man, always messing up when you peel them. I've had to do it for you since we were kids. You alone are enough for me to worry about. Where would I have the time to bother with anyone else? I found it laughable. He always said things like that were for servants to do, and as a company CEO, it would be embarrassing for him to do them. Now it seemed, it was just that I wasn't worthy. Ethan, who was supposed to be grounded, was nestled in Sarah Taylor's arms, playing around, showing her a closeness he never showed me. Seeing me, Ethan scoffed and said with disgust, "The fake nice old witch is back," not wanting Ethan to become arrogant and overbearing by relying on the family's power. I had always strictly disciplined his character. Even though I was initially angry about Robert Miller having an illegitimate son, when I heard Ethan dared to set fire and injure someone, I still punished him, because the fault wasn't with the child, but with the adults who couldn't control themselves. For 10 years, I had meticulously raised Ethan, doing everything myself, but he always inexplicably disliked me, feeling that I wasn't as indulgent as Sarah Taylor. When he hit Daniel back then, I thought he was standing up for me. It turned out he was just unhappy that Daniel was competing for his dad. I walked up to Ethan and spoke calmly. 2 days grounded. Who allowed you out? Sarah Taylor quickly shielded Ethan behind her, laughing as she pulled my arm. I decided to let Ethan out. Boys are playful and active. Keeping them cooped up will stifle their nature. Besides, it was just a small thing. Why are you being so strict? That little brat Daniel. It was his fortune to be Ethan's toy. Speaking of which, that little brat was born a nobody, completely out of place. He doesn't resemble me or Robert. I don't know which low-class person he took after. He even dared to upset Ethan last time. His death was deserved. I sneered. Since when does a mistress get to decide what happens in my home? I tried to pull my arm away, but Sarah Taylor deliberately stumbled and fell towards the coffee table behind her. Robert Miller quickly helped her up, lifting her dress in front of me to check her body. Seeing a small bruise on Sarah Taylor's lower back, he became enraged and grabbed the ashtray nearby, throwing it at me. A warm liquid flowed down my temple. Eleanor, I heard you handled the funeral arrangements for that brat. You're something else. You neglect your own son at home but have the time to meddle in other people's business. If Sarah and I hadn't come back early, Ethan would have starved to death. Is that how a mother acts? I think you're the one who should be grounded. Sarah was just concerned about Ethan, much better than you, his mother. How dare you talk to her like that and even lay hands on her? Now, apologize to Sarah. Even though I had grounded Ethan, I had instructed people to deliver his meals on time, 3 times a day. How could he possibly starve? I looked at Ethan in confusion, only to see him secretly exchange a look with Sarah Taylor, both of them showing triumphant smiles. It turned out they were in cahoots. I have no interest in apologizing to a manipulative friend, much less a mistress who breaks up other people's families. The old me was a gentle and considerate wife. This was the first time I had spoken to him with such coldness. Robert Miller, used to being adored, was furious, pointing at me repeatedly. See, I really have spoiled you too much. You won't apologize to Sarah. Is that it? Fine, butler, bring out my solid gold baseball bat. Hit her. Hit Mrs. Miller until she knows she's wrong. I looked at him in disbelief. Robert Miller, you promised me back then that you would never have anything to do with Sarah Taylor again. You broke your own promise, and now, because of her, you're going to hit me with the gift I gave you. Robert Miller loved baseball. Last year, for his birthday, I specifically had someone craft a solid gold baseball bat. That bat was solid, and I knew how much it would hurt to be hit with it. Yes, I said that, but that brat is dead. What else do you want? Sarah and I grew up together. Just because I married you, does that mean I have to cut ties with all my friends? Eleanor, don't be so unreasonable. Robert Miller finished coldly and left with Sarah Taylor and Ethan. I was forcefully pinned face down on the floor as Ethan passed by me. He viciously stomped on my hand. Let me tell you, I don't like you at all. I like Aunt Sarah. She never bothers me. I can drink soda when I want and hit whoever I want. Why did that illegitimate son get such a good mom? Now that that annoying bastard is dead, I'm going to make Dad divorce you and marry Aunt Sarah to be my mom. With that, he hopped and skipped between Robert Miller and Sarah Taylor, holding their hands. They looked exactly like a happy family of three. The bat fell on my flesh, producing dull thuds, one after another. The smell of blood gradually permeated the entire living room. The pain made me lose consciousness, and I completely passed out when I opened my eyes again. The butler stood by the bed with a gown, his expression indifferent. Today is Mr. Miller and Mrs. Miller's 10th wedding anniversary. Although Mrs. Miller made a mistake, our Mr. Miller is magnanimous and won't hold it against you. He even booked a private room to celebrate with you. I said coldly, I'm not going. The butler sneered. Mrs. Miller, if you ask me, people should know their place. Our Miss Taylor has a good family background and has known Mr. Miller since they grew up together. Even the young master likes her. See this gown? Mr. David booked the entire shopping mall for Miss Taylor today, letting her choose whatever she wanted. This one of yours is just something she didn't want. How can you possibly compare to her? Besides, which man from a wealthy elite family doesn't have a few lovers? You being able to become Mrs. Miller is already a nobody marrying into a prominent family. Don't push your luck. After saying that, he called a few maids, ignoring the wounds on my back. They forcefully changed me into the gown and dragged me to the private club. As soon as the door was pushed open, I heard Robert Miller's childhood friends joking. You all got the invitation, right? David, that poor class monitor from university, is actually the son of an arms dealer lost abroad. Now he's inherited the family business. If he stomps his foot, the whole world order shifts. They say he just lost his wife and is already marrying someone else. The bride is apparently from Sterling City, but we don't know which prominent family's daughter. We better prepare good gifts. We need to build a good relationship with the David family. Speaking of gifts, I suddenly remembered, Sarah seems to have prepared something very special for Robert today. You'll never guess. She tattooed Robert's bite mark on her butt. Ha 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 ha. Robert Miller looked at Sarah Taylor playfully and pushed her down onto the sofa. The one I bit last night? Why bother with a tattoo? If you like it, I'll bite you a new one every day. Come on, let me admire it. Sarah Taylor glared at him. Who wants to be bitten by you every day, like a dog? How does Eleanor stand you? Only a friend like me puts up with you. She said this, but made no move to stop Robert Miller's hand from exploring her hem of her dress or skirt. Someone must have seen me first and quickly cleared their throat a few times. Sarah Taylor pretended to push Robert Miller away. Your wife is here. Hurry and help her over. And you, I just bumped myself a little. Was it necessary for you to hit her dozens of times for me? Girls are just jealous and overthink things, not carefree like me. Eleanor's butt is so soft. It must be bruised badly now. You have to take good care of her. The others looked at me meaningfully, their eyes scanning me in a lewd way. Robert Miller walked up to me, looked me up and down, and nodded in satisfaction. Ellie, this dress suits you very well. You look beautiful. He leaned close to my ear, his hand tracing my waist. I was impulsive during the day. I sent Ethan to the family estate. Today is our 10th wedding anniversary. Your husband will make it up to you tonight. But you were too much to Sarah today. She was quite wronged later. Go toast her a few drinks, humble yourself a bit, Hey. So that was what he really wanted to say. I pushed him away coldly. Since you think she was wronged, why don't you make it up to her in her bed tonight? You must be quite familiar with the way. You can even admire your bite mark tattoo. You want me to bow down to a mistress? Dream on. At that, the others immediately expressed their displeasure. Eleanor, Sarah is our childhood friend. Nobody sees her as just a woman. We're all like brothers. What's wrong with being close? Do you have to say such unpleasant things? Is that so? It seems Sarah Taylor has slept with you all too, and given birth to illegitimate sons for you, sharing the same passage. Your brotherhood is truly touching. Everyone's faces changed. Sarah Taylor stood up abruptly, as if she had suffered some great humiliation. Eleanor, even if I am a straightforward person, you can't insult me like that. If this gets out, how can I face anyone? Are you just dwelling on that one time, that accidental drunk mistake between Robert and me? Fine, I'll drink all these drinks in front of me as an apology to you. She raised her hand to pour the whiskey in front of her into her mouth, but Robert Miller snatched it away. Don't be silly. You're allergic to alcohol. Besides, she's the one who's being unreasonable. Why should you apologize? Robert Miller looked at me with a darkened face. Eleanor, since you married me, you should know that men like us can't have just one woman. I haven't even held your background against you for not providing any help to me. So how can you have the nerve to blame me for a momentary lapse? That time was an accident. I got drunk and didn't use protection. Sarah is my friend. She just saw I was uncomfortable and helped me out. What did she do wrong? Why do you have to embarrass her in front of so many people? I sneered. Is that so? Well, she's truly remarkable then, Robert Miller. I came here just to tell you. Let's get a divorce. From now on, whoever you want to find has nothing to do with me. Hearing this, Robert Miller's face completely darkened. You're insisting on being jealous over something so useless? Fine, it'll give you plenty to be jealous about. He pushed me away, took off his wedding ring, and threw it hard at my face. Then he opened the 10th wedding anniversary gift he had prepared. It was a pair of matching diamond rings. Robert Miller had personally found the raw gemstone and designed them for half a year. He said perhaps his design wasn't the best in the world, but his sincerity towards me surpassed everyone else's. Now, this sincerity was being placed on Sarah Taylor's hand right in front of me. The others started chanting for them to kiss. Sarah Taylor blushed shyly. Robert Miller glanced at me dismissively, then forcefully kissed her. A chorus of whistles erupted around us. They kissed more and more intensely, even collapsing onto a nearby sofa. Sarah Taylor, breathless from being kissed, still managed to let out deliberate, suggestive sounds. I couldn't bear to watch any more and ran out as if fleeing. Not until I breathed in the fresh air did tears stream down uncontrollably. Robert Miller, how could you do this to me? Oh, Eleanor, you were so tough just now. Why are you crying here like a dog? Sarah Taylor appeared out of nowhere, deliberately sweeping her hair aside to reveal the kiss marks on her neck. So what if Robert married you? I'm the closest person to him. For me, he was even willing to swap your children. He even coaxed Ethan into burning that brat, and personally pulled his oxygen tube, just to make sure my Ethan becomes the Miller family's only heir. Oh, right, did you know? Actually, that little brat Daniel was willingly beaten by me. I told him you were his biological mother. And if he didn't listen, I would never let him see you again. I didn't expect him to be quite resistant to pain. Beasts. I couldn't bear it any longer and raised my hand. But Sarah Taylor was quicker. She pulled out a fruit knife and forcefully slashed her own hand. Ah, Eleanor, I'll give you the ring back. Please don't cut off my finger. Robert Miller rushed over at the sound and forcefully pushed me away. I tumbled down the stairs. The wounds on my back tore open, and the pale blue gown was soaked with blood. Robert Miller showed no pity, his anger blazing. Eleanor, are you ever going to stop? The ring is for Sarah. How dare you hurt her? Look at the state you're in. Are you even fit to be Mrs. Miller anymore? Sarah Taylor deliberately advised. Robert, why don't you help Eleanor up? I'm fine. Eleanor is bleeding a lot. After all, she did give birth to your child, Robert Miller said coldly. She's not the only one who's given birth to my child. It's a good thing she's not the only one. What can a woman like her do besides being jealous and throwing fits? Who knows how Ethan would turn out if she raised him? Luckily, I have you. From now on, you'll raise Ethan yourself. Eleanor, just go home and reflect on your mistakes. He held Sarah Taylor and left. For 3 consecutive days, Robert Miller didn't come home. He stayed by Sarah Taylor's side constantly, buying her all sorts of expensive jewelry as gifts to make her happy. He even chose Sarah Taylor to be his companion for David's wedding reception. It wasn't until the reception was about to begin that he realized I hadn't contacted him in days. This had never happened before. Robert Miller sent me a WeChat message. "All right, Ellie. I was just angry that day when I kissed Sarah. You know her figure, flat as a board. She's no different from a man, just pretend I kissed a guy, okay? Don't be mad at me. As for the matching diamond rings, I'll get you a better pair later. I'll come home early today and bring you your favorite little cake, okay?" He waited for a long time, but there was no reply from me. Robert Miller frowned, feeling inexplicably irritable, losing the mood to attend the wedding. Just as he was about to type, the hotel doors were pushed open. His friend beside him frantically pulled his sleeve. "Robert, look, that bride. It looks like your wife, Eleanor." Robert Miller, annoyed at being interrupted, continued typing while scoffing. "Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I'm stupid? Ellie's at home sulking. Can't you see I'm busy trying to coax my wife?" The next second, the host's voice rang out. "Will the groom, David, please escort his bride, Eleanor, to the stage?" Robert Miller's fingers froze. A sudden, unfounded panic seized him. He pretended to look up casually, forcing a dry laugh. It must be the same name. Shatter. His phone fell to the floor. Robert Miller stood up abruptly, staring at the stage in disbelief. "I was wearing a wedding gown. Exchanging rings with another man," Sarah Taylor gasped, covering her mouth. "Robert, could Eleanor have been cheating on you? Oh dear, isn't this a fraudulent marriage? I thought this only happened in TV dramas." Robert Miller ignored her, ignoring his friend's attempts to stop him. He stormed onto the stage with a dark face. "Ellie, what's going on? Why are you having a wedding with someone else?" He rushed towards me and raised his hand to grab my wrist, but was stopped by the bodyguards beside David. "Mr. Miller, if you're here to attend the wedding properly, I, David, welcome you. If you're here to cause trouble, don't blame me for being impolite," David said coldly. Robert Miller's eyes were red with rage. He desperately shoved the bodyguards. "Get the hell away from me. David, stop acting like you're so important. How can you, a member of the David family, steal someone else's wife? Ellie, I know you would never cheat. Tell me, is this guy named David coveting you, forcing you? Don't be afraid. We are legally married and protected by law. No matter how powerful he is, he can't act lawlessly." The guests below started whispering. Momentarily confused by the situation, all eyes turned to me. I walked up to Robert Miller, looking at him across the bodyguards. "You're right. I would never cheat." Robert Miller's face brightened with joy. "I knew it. It must be. However, we are already divorced. Is there anything wrong with me remarrying normally? The law now protects me and my new husband, Mr. Miller." Robert Miller's eyes widened in shock. "You're lying. When did we get divorced? I never agreed. Do you know this is bigamy?" I chuckled sarcastically and took out the divorce agreement he had signed earlier. Robert Miller finally remembered that he had indeed signed a divorce agreement back then to show his sincerity towards me. I did sign it, but I never thought you would actually use it, because I would." "You would what?" "You would love me well, make me happy for a lifetime, and never give me a reason to divorce you." "But Robert Miller, do you think you achieved that?" In the wealthy elite circles of Sterling City, any little bit of gossip spreads quickly. It was no secret that Sarah Taylor had given birth to an illegitimate son for Robert Miller. While the Taylor family parents were initially angry, they also coveted the benefits the Miller family could bring, so they shamelessly turned a blind eye. After all, having a son for Robert Miller was much more worthwhile than for someone from a less prominent family. Robert Miller looked somewhat ashamed. "Besides my drunk mistake and having an illegitimate son with Sarah, how else have I ever wronged you? Besides, I've only cheated with this one woman. That's much better than others who keep 4 or 5 mistresses. Do you think this guy named David is some kind of good person? He just lost his wife and is already so eager to marry you. How many days have you known him? Do you really expect someone so heartless to be faithful to you after marriage? He's probably worse than me," I said calmly. "Remarrying after losing a spouse, no matter how bad, is still better than a scum like you who cheats during marriage. Also, Robert Miller, do you really think the only way you've wronged me is by cheating with Sarah Taylor and having an illegitimate son? Then, I ask you, what is this?" I glanced at David, who nodded and gestured to his bodyguards. Soon, a video played on the big screen on the hospital bed. The child's small, charred body looked so pitiful. But his parents didn't even look at him, instead fooling around right in front of the corpse. The guests were utterly shocked. I heard that illegitimate son Sarah Taylor had was burned by Eleanor's son. Fine, Mr. Miller doesn't care about the illegitimate son's life or death, but Sarah Taylor is his biological mother. Her child is gone, and she's still in the mood for this. Although I don't like illegitimate sons either, ultimately it's not the child's fault. How could their biological parents be so cruel? If they didn't want the child, they shouldn't have not used protection in the first place. The next second, something even more shocking happened. Everyone heard the conversation in the video. It turned out the child who died was my biological son, and Ethan Miller was the illegitimate son Sarah Taylor had. These two, for their own selfish reasons, fed the legal wife sterilization drug, encouraged a child to set fire to someone, and Robert Miller, the biological father, even pulled his own son's oxygen tube. Even a tiger doesn't eat its cubs. Everyone looked at Robert Miller and Sarah Taylor with immense disgust. Robert Miller looked at me, his face pale. You knew all along. Why? Why didn't you curse me? I looked at him indifferently. Even if I cursed you 1,000 times, my son wouldn't come back. Robert Miller, when I married you, I did wonder if your heart would change. Even if you changed, I could understand. As long as you told me, I would immediately pack up and leave. But you shouldn't have lied to me and swapped my child. You separated my son and me for years, and then you personally killed him. You truly sicken me. Robert Miller shook his head repeatedly, desperately trying to explain. No, Ellie, I didn't change my heart. I loved you, and I never thought of marrying anyone else. You just thought my background wasn't worthy of bearing your heir. You thought that if Sarah Taylor's son inherited the Miller family, the Taylor family, although not as prominent as yours, would be some help. You saw me and my child as things you could betray and discard at will. Robert Miller was about to say more, but the police had arrived. With the video as evidence, the police took Robert Miller and Sarah Taylor away. The wedding continued as planned. Robert Miller was taken into custody. Sarah Taylor was only held for a few days because she wasn't directly involved in the physical act. After this incident, the Miller family stock was severely affected. The Miller family estate quickly cut ties with Robert Miller, severing their relationship. Wealthy elite families have money, but they are also heartless. Without Robert Miller, someone else from the Miller family would naturally take over the company. They considered Sarah Taylor bad luck, and even her son, Ethan Miller, was driven out and sent back to the Taylor family. I returned to the mansion to pack my things. As I was about to leave in the car, a small figure suddenly rushed over. Mom, don't go. Ethan's small face was covered in bruises. I frowned. Did you get into a fight with your classmates again? Ethan clung to the car window, crying. Mom, don't go. Please keep taking care of me. Without you taking care of me, my schoolwork has fallen behind so much, and my teacher doesn't like me anymore. Mom, Sarah. Annie just drinks every day and brings different uncles home. She doesn't care about me at all. Nobody makes delicious food for me anymore. My classmates call me an illegitimate son and say I'm a murderer's son. I was wrong. I won't be disobedient anymore. I sighed inwardly, asked someone to get some ointment, and gently applied it to his face. Even though you weren't born to me and you don't like me, for 10 years, I believe I raised you as my own son. From now on, you have to walk your own path. You are, after all, of the Taylor family bloodline. They won't abandon you. I hope that in the future, you can become a kind-hearted child. I am human. I cannot raise Sarah Taylor's son by my side. That would be too unfair to Daniel. I already owed him so much when he was alive. I couldn't let him die and still have to see the son of the woman who severely burned and abused him staying by his mother's side. I gently pushed Ethan away and told the driver to start the car. Behind me, I heard Ethan's heartbreaking cries. But I didn't look back. I moved into the mansion David had bought in Sterling City. A few days later, a fire at the Taylor family home became trending news. It was said that after the video was exposed, Sarah Taylor's reputation in Sterling City was completely ruined. The affluent young men who used to hang out with her now avoided her like the plague. For those who were married, if their wives even heard the name Sarah Taylor, they would definitely cause a huge scene, even threatening divorce and the immediate termination of any partnerships resulting from marriage alliances if they dared to contact that manipulative friend again. For those who were unmarried, it was time to look for potential marriage alliances, and nobody wanted to cause a scandal and hinder their family's business development at this crucial time. Sarah Taylor spent her days getting drunk with men at bars. When drunk, she would curse me out. It seemed that wasn't enough to vent her frustration. As she started taking it out on Ethan, one time, Ethan had a math problem he couldn't solve and asked her for help. Sarah Taylor slapped him across the face. "Why are you so useless? You're completely worthless. If it weren't for having a burden like you, would I be in this state today? I thought I could rely on you to inherit the Miller family in the future and then drive out that low-class woman Eleanor, and it'd finally become Mrs. Miller. Now it's all gone, you're just bad luck." Ethan was hurt and wronged by the beating. He hid under the covers at night, crying and missing me, softly calling out Mom, unexpectedly. Sarah Taylor heard him. She grabbed Ethan Miller by the hair and threw him onto the floor, her sharp high heels repeatedly kicking his stomach. "Who are you calling Mom? I carried you for 10 months and gave birth to you. And you're still thinking about that low-class woman? Just like that useless idiot Robert Miller, sleeping with me and still saying he just sees me as a friend. None of you Miller family people are any good. You want her, huh? I'll let you miss her as much as you want." Ethan hugged his stomach, curled up on the floor, but stopped crying. It wasn't until the entire Taylor family went out for a banquet, deeming Sarah Taylor an embarrassment, that they left her and Ethan at home. No one noticed that a can of gasoline was missing from the warehouse. By the time Sarah Taylor regained consciousness, she and Ethan were engulfed in flames. "Mom, this is the game Dad taught me. Is it fun?" After hearing this news, I was silent for a long time. Sarah Taylor was not a qualified mother to either Daniel or Ethan. Her previous display of affection towards Ethan was merely because she saw him as having value to her. Robert Miller confessed to his crimes and was sentenced to death according to the law. However, he requested to see me one last time before he died. I looked at the faded, old wedding ring on the dressing table and agreed. Some things needed to be returned in person. Robert Miller's hair was cut short. He held the microphone, separated by thick glass, his eyes filled with undeniable excitement. "Ellie, I knew it. You wouldn't be able to bear not seeing me. Do I look awful like this? Don't worry. The next time you come, my hair will." I interrupted him. "Robert Miller, there won't be a next time. I would not visit him again, and he would not have the chance to see me again." Robert Miller froze, his eyes gradually turning red. "Ellie, I'm sorry," I said calmly. "Robert Miller, I didn't come today because I couldn't bear to leave you, nor did I want to hear your meaningless apology. A life for a life is the fate you deserve. I came for two things. The first, I want to return something to you." I calmly placed the wedding ring on the table. How much joy I felt when I first put it on was how much disappointment I felt now. Robert Miller looked at me unwillingly. "You truly don't want to leave me any keepsake?" I scoffed lightly, stood up, and said word by word, "The second thing, I came to see with my own eyes, for my son. What fate awaits the scum who killed him? Robert Miller, the gates of hell are waiting for you. Don't let me stop you." Robert Miller's face instantly turned ashen. I didn't look at him again and turned to leave on the overseas plane. I quietly gazed out the window at the rolling white clouds, lost in thought. David, sitting beside me, gently held my hand. After a long pause, he finally managed to say, "Actually, I've never been married." My eyes widened in surprise. This was unexpected. In fact, I had known David longer than Robert Miller. At that time, I was an aid worker in a war zone overseas. There was conflict all around, and many innocent people were injured and waiting for treatment. David was one of the volunteers who came to help. He said he was an orphan and was there looking for his parents. We worked together for 3 months and became good friends. I never asked about his parents' identities in detail, and he seemed reluctant to talk about it later. Our organization had to move to another area to treat the injured, and David found his family. So we exchanged contact information. At first, we contacted each other quite frequently, but when I told him I was getting married, he didn't reply for 3 whole days. It wasn't until I was tidying up things at home and saw David in Robert Miller's university graduation photo that I realized they were classmates. Afraid Robert Miller would overthink it, I never told him. David said he actually planned to come back to the country to propose to me after reuniting with his parents. But he didn't expect his father to have many wives and children, and everyone wanted to inherit the family fortune. Among all his wives, his father loved his mother the most. But his mother couldn't bear sharing her husband with so many people, so she fled back to the country with David, only to tragically fall ill and pass away. David's father felt he owed him and wanted to give him the family business, which angered the other children. The day after his father died, David was assassinated and nearly lost his life, Luckily protected by his father's old subordinates, David didn't want to involve me in that mess. He thought he would resolve everything before expressing his feelings to me. But he didn't expect me to get married, and to someone he disliked the most, Robert Miller, who was arrogant and acted as he pleased because of his family background. As for the so-called losing his wife, it was just a smokescreen to confuse his siblings. He pulled me into his arms. Luckily, after everything, you've come back to me. This time, no one will ever be able to hurt you again. David's embrace was very warm, so warm that it made my eyes water. I buried my face in his chest. Yes, no one can ever hurt me again.